Welcome to Print Your Games, the podcast about what's new and awesome in 3D printing for gamers. I'm one of your hosts, Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param, and I'm joined by
Kirsten Sowards, also known as Seventh Mastery.
And Kristen. We've got an awesome guest, one that our chat might be very familiar with, as often as you hang out in it. Heriberto, welcome to the show.
Howdy. Hey, thank you. Yeah, I do hang around the channel, and I'm now over on the other side of the screen. Excited.
Yes. Now I have to say, your stuff has always caught my attention. From like your, I remember. Well, first, before we jump into it, why don't you let the audience know the quick elevator pitch of who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm Heriberto Valle. I'm a 3D sculptor in general. Mostly I work for board games, actually, but I also do my own 3D printable projects, both for tabletop and for the fun of it.
Awesome. Yeah, and it actually is when we were doing the pre-interview, we had to take a little bit of time just to document all the different things you were doing right now, because it's a lot. You've got a lot of projects out there. You have a tribes going on MyMiniFactory called Grimdark Cuteness. That might be the most applicable thing to the show. But you also have your own board game you're working on, or is this a miniature war game, skirmish game?
More of a skirmish war game.
Yeah. Called Magical Girl Assault, which several of our listeners keeps poking me to ask you about when they heard about this show happening. So definitely we'll need to spend some time. You also do Capsule Chibi. Is that
yes?
Which is
alongside my dear girlfriend Dia.
Right. And which does a bunch of awesome chibi miniatures available. And you also just threw down at the very last minute. You do a web comic with 3D printing support?
Yes. All the characters and the vehicles are 3D printable.
Well, that's a whole amazing amount of awesome. And we're going to have to give each of this their time. But before we get into it, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into gaming and then how that led to you making gaming your job?
Excellent. Now, interesting enough, I wasn't into board games and whatnot from an early age. I actually came to this a bit, not even that much time ago. It's been like 11 years at the most.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 37, by the way, so it's been on. So I started late. I mostly came from the video game realm. I was doing video game graphics and assets for little mobile games. You know, when phone games started becoming actually pretty decent?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they started coming out with 3D graphics, I was working there. Eventually, I got really into 3D printing, mostly FDM and doing your own machines, you know, the rev movement. I had the crummiest 3D printer you will ever see in your life. And eventually, I tried to do something more professional because I learned ZBrush and actually moved from Modbox, which nobody remembers now, and decided to just pull the plug, ask for a very hefty, how do you call it, a loan, and buy a Form 1 Plus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was not a good idea. Importing things to Mexico with that one was pain. That said, it did teach me how to actually 3D print things that would work. Eventually, I got into board games. Then I got into modeling for board games. I was offered a little job on this failed horrible game called Hunters. Never got paid. Nobody got paid in that game. We were all how do you say it? Well, anyway, it was bad. But it did teach me, and I started doing a little career there. And as things developed with Patreon, you know, printers slowly coming down on price and everybody adopting this new hobby, well, I just jumped into the fray with all I got.
Awesome. And we're definitely glad you did, because nobody really is doing what you're doing right now with these like super stylized, very cute chibis that are very well informed on what they can be used for or what they're referencing, and especially to the quality and quantity that you're putting it out. You really are alone right now in what you're doing, and the hobby would be lesser without you in it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So how did you think? You mentioned that you had the Form 1. and now like we're talking about sub $200 resin printers that blow it out of the water. So how does that make you feel after that big old loan?
Overwhelmed and very happy. To be honest, I could have predicted that it will go down in. Oh man, it's not just that it will go down in price, it will go up in quality, and the technique is so much better. The original Form One, for everybody who didn't try it, was pain.
Hmm.
Like a speck of dust will ruin your day. You needed to have that printer in near, almost in a clean room, and
Hmm.
third party support for it wasn't so good. There were third party like under the water accessories you could do. You could even convert it to something else. But once we got printers like, I remember the first printer when I said, okay, we're there. This is getting cheap, was my Mars One, and that was when there were color screens, not even mono.
Right. Yeah, my first printer was a Mars One, and I loved it to death. A lot of my favorite models I printed on that thing.
It was a great printer, and then everything else has been blowing it out of the water. We got into a point where it's cheap, reliable. The Mars printers, I have two Mars 3. They're so good and reliable. I mean, heck, I even have a painting club called the Secret Society of Miniature Painters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the mechanic is, don't have a miniature? Grab a miniature from the pile. Why do we have a pile of miniatures? Because it's so cheap. So I just
I mean,
sprint for
I
it
guess
and
that's
go
true.
grab
I've
it.
given away entire armies before just because they were in my way in storage. I'm like, I don't want this Bretonian army. You take it, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, a big army like that, giving it away will be almost a dowry or something like that. But nowadays, it's more of a. I had another lighter of resin back there that I wasn't gonna use, so you had it. Stuff like that.
I need the space for the next army I'm not going to paint.
You need the dowry for that now.
Oh.
That's awesome.
So you mentioned you got into board games. What are some of the board games people might know you for?
Oh god. Some of the expansions for Sight.
Oh wow.
The airship one. I
Mm-hmm.
did all of the 3D work for Rise of Fenris. What else? What else is good? Dice Throne, when they came up with miniatures, I did those. What else is good? Title Blades, games from Druid City Games, a bunch of games.
And are you still doing board game models?
I am still doing board games nowadays. I have cut a lot of my clients from the board gaming space. I've only
Mm-hmm.
kept like the guys I like the most. Like I know I'm always going to do stuff for Jamie Stegmaier or or for Druid City Games, but mostly I've been trying to thrive and survive with my own stuff or my
Mm-hmm.
own ventures. Thank heavens, it's been good actually.
I mean, as an artist, that has to be the dream, right? To only take the jobs you want to take and get to do your own stuff as much as you want.
I am very grateful. It's been going well so far.
And you mentioned that you're doing some of these projects with your girlfriend.
Yes, Capsule Chibi is a joint project. She does everything that has to do with promoting it, and I'm very glad because I don't have to promote it. She does all the social networking and whatnot. She also does some of the designs. Some of the originals are her designs. And I'll drop you a link if you want to find it later. And I model all of Capsule Chibi, and I also do some designs. And others are fan art, other weird ideas we got or I got. Like it's a good collaboration. We've been working in creating something original that's fun for everyone, really.
And this is one of the common through lines with a lot of the material you make. It's a lot of chibi characters, a lot of anime inspired characters. There's definitely a giant gallon of cute that's been poured over all of your gaming materials, at least in your private ventures. I guess you didn't get. I guess you don't get a lot of authority to say Scythe needs chibis now, but why the draw to chibi art and these chibi characters and this anime inspired material?
Well, anime inspired always been the world's most contemptuous weeb, so that's never been a problem. Um, Chibi stuff, as in cute stuff, like small proportions. Actually, I can tell you where it comes from. It comes because I still love, but a game called Super Dungeon Explorer.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. That your style kind of reminds me of a little bit. So yeah.
And actually have done some. Eventually, I got to do some models for Ninja Division.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
So full circle there. And I always love that kind of stuff that comes from that love of little characters that are kind of like video game lookalikes. And I have this other love for gashapon toys, those collectibles from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And
absolutely addicted to them.
yeah, I love them, like capsule toys, which is kind of like the theme of the Patreon. You don't know what you're getting. We actually deliver through the month, not at the beginning of the month as most patrons do. And things start appearing and appearing. And I usually do decide on some polls, but some things are just surprises you're going to get. It's been very good at keeping the audience of the Patreon there. Also, well, it's just a love for cute things and things that are funny. Like you'll notice that a lot of the releases sometimes are puns, or
Mhm.
gotta be honest, dumb stuff, or just stuff I like. Like we had the mistletoe for December. What else? Or whatever catches your fancy, and it's pretty unique. And I'm also a big fan of niches. Sorry, oh man, my pronunciation niches.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Niche.
small
Yeah.
niche,
Yeah.
niche, not the philosopher, the little space of things
Right.
that maybe not a lot of people are a fan of.
Yeah, I
And
didn't expect
Chibi
this to
Miniatures is one
take
of
quite
those.
that much of a turn all of a sudden.
Your printer's dead. There. All right. So, but yeah, basically a love of cute things and weird things and funny things.
Now, one of the things the Capsule Chibi seems to be a more general catch-all of inspiration.
Hmm.
And you also, besides, why do you have the Capsule Chibi and also decided to go Grimdark Cuteness?
So
Why are
Capsule
these
Chibi is
separate campaigns?
because Capsule Chibi is like for everything weird I'd like to sculpt, or that also the wants to sculpt,
Mm-hmm.
or little things like we don't have a team, but you're gonna find a lot of video game stuff, a lot of anime stuff, a lot of monsters. We love doing monsters. Especially have a series called Mexican Monsters, which is exactly what it sounds. Um, but Grimdark Cuteness is one thing only: is weird parodies that sometimes veer into their own inner universe of 40k lore. This all
Mhm.
started with a Kickstarter called the Sisters of Conflict, siblings of conflict. That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
And it did extraordinarily well. This was actually physical miniatures, not even STL. Um, and this was because I've always wanted a Sisters of Battle army. But back when I was doing the wargaming thing, I had two options: War Machine or Warhammer. I analyzed the cost of having Warhammer and the long-term benefit of it, and I decided for War Machine.
Right.
So I never got an army for the sisters, but I wanted to do my own spin on them. Eventually, this grew to another Kickstarter, which grew into another Kickstarter, and then I decided might as well do it as a side project. So ever since last February, almost a year now, I've been doing Grimdark Cuteness, which is weird parodies of the 40k world.
And it's very well done. Everybody that I know that I've shown these to immediately wants them because, first the cuteness and the contrast between the grim dark future of the 41st millennium and mixed with kawaii always goes over well. And I mean, the second you see them, you start wondering, well, can I have a whole army? Can I make a whole army of very cute chibis?
And
Do you
that's
know
the
if
fun
anybody's
part.
done it?
Yes, here's the
This is
thing.
something I wanted to know for sure. Someone actually built one.
So in the Discord, you're gonna find a bunch of pictures of this. Some people have done kill team retinues just for the
Mhm.
lols. As in, I just want to go to the gaming store and put this on the table so they laugh. Some others have given gifts like dioramas of the Chibi characters to others. Some
Mhm.
are actually playing Chibi Warhammer with, well, and this is wonderful because not just stuff that I've done, but stuff that they've kid bashed from what I've done.
Mhm.
So I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of that around and whole armies of sisters. And there's more. Like I've been introducing more and more races. For example, I think I can say it safely here. The Tau have the Dish Warriors. Um, on my little Grimdark Cuteness thing, the Tyranids are cats. Are
Yeah, I
like
noticed that.
weird
I was wanting to
mutated
ask you
cats.
about why are the Tyranids cats? It's
Wait, the
cool.
Tyranids are cats? That's like
Yes,
two of
they're
my favorite things.
cats.
I'll have to look at those for sure.
Yeah.
And well, speaking of cats, even the how these are these called the Necrons are
Necrons?
cats. They're
The
called the
Necks are
Necro
also
cats.
You're speaking to my heart here.
This
Yeah,
has got me,
it's
like,
super
some
dumb but
samurai
super
pizza
adorable.
cat vibe going on here.
Yes, those are called the Termigatos.
Oh, okay. Very
And
wonderful.
his Steelers.
Yeah, the his stealers. Everything's a pun here, so expect no complicated things.
Oh, and here is the jugglers.
The
those
jugglers,
are-
the harpy teams, and the space warlock. Yeah, you know
Okay.
who are those.
yes, we
That
do.
was kind of easy.
Here's your dish warriors you mentioned before.
Oh, and the crisis suits are the anger suits.
So I mean, I love it. I dig it. So do you find it hard to take like such a serious, like how do you chibify something? Like what is the process that goes through your mind? I want to take something absolutely horrific and I'm going to turn it cute. How do you do it? How do you do that?
Well, it depends on what you're thinking. Like some of the things I've done, you'll notice are kind of like a real unit, but just made kind of silly in proportions. Like every now and then, I try to grab something that's completely off base. For example, the commissar has a little cat skull instead of the normal skull, like that. Apart from the proportions and making them cute, you try to reduce everything and not even parody it, just make something silly, something fun that still reminds you of the original thing. So you'll make someone laugh, I guess will be the word. I once saw I did mention I do love the gashapons. I once saw a documentary about gashapon, and some of the designers were saying that basically what they want is to make people smile and make objects that make people happy. So I kind of adopted that philosophy for this, and it's just for the fun of it. And there are things that I love from the 40k universe that I want to parody. Some armies that I've never even cared much about their designs, I'm looking up into them and saying, what can I do here? For example, I'm going to forget the name, but the next month everybody's getting like one of the big. It's not Necrons, it's the other ones.
Termagant?
Those are sorry about the brain freeze over here. What's that army?
For Tyrannid?
Tyranids, thank you.
Yeah.
One of the big boy Tyranids, who I'm basically turning to. What if this dude is just a mutated fat cat, and even has kind of like the Garfield face?
Nice.
So just what can you do to make it fun, dumb, but still a little bit recognizable while giving yourself a little bit of play within that world you're creating?
Very cool.
Now, are the models actually sized that they could be based and played with?
They're a little bit chunkier and bigger, but they fit. They're usually fit on a 25 millimeter base with a little bit of an overhang. I've seen a lot of people to resize them at will. They're chunkier though. If you just print them, they're chunkier. These models are great for first-time painters, by the way, and kids. And something really good that actually has made me really happy. I've been getting a lot of messages in the Discord or through other channels of fathers who print these for their kids and play war games with them to get them into the hobby. Or I've gotten two messages of a guy that says, I printed some of this to play Warhammer with my girlfriend. She prefers these ones and will actually play with me. And that's actually very heartwarming to me.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
That is
definitely
awesome.
to get people involved.
Yeah, I mean, I do you get a lot of kickback or something from people like don't get this cuteness in my 40k?
Yeah, I wanted that too. Like if people like were negative about it, like you're mocking them or something.
Hasn't happened so far, to be honest. I've only got one guy that was, and this was back in the third Kickstarter from the first Necron Cats. I just just because I painted their eyes green in the renders.
Mhm.
And they were actually asking, do the eyes actually come in green? I say, of course not. Like, then why are you placing them like that? This is confusing, and I'm very angry about this. I'm like, is this guy trolling? So I just told them, yeah, they're green, but they only green when you turn around. So that was it.
Awesome. They're only
I-
green when you
you
close
say
your
this-
eyes.
I've worked in a game store before and had like angry moms slam a Warhammer box down in front of me saying, "You didn't tell me I had to paint it." And I'm like, "It's on the box all over it that you have to paint these.
It's part of
it's
the
a model
hobby.
kit. What did you expect?"
It's part of the fun as well.
Yeah, I mean, the painting is half like I love painting almost as much as I love playing the game.
Okay,
Yeah.
I kind of think that's the flex, actually. You know, like anybody could just throw unpainted models out. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, to be sure.
So, Grimdark Cuteness and Capsule Chibis are two of your projects, but you're also working on your own skirmish game. So, tell us a little bit about that one.
Well, the skirmish game is Magical Girl Assault. Now, still continuing with this theme of make things cute and what can you do with it, I decided, what if magical girls? Everybody knows what a magical girl is, even if they don't know the term. Everybody has seen, even from afar, Sailor Moon, Sakura Card Captor. At least my generation was big into those cartoons.
Yeah, for sure.
And they still, every now and then, one of them appears. And I also seen these cartoons that are more of a deconstruction of the whole thing, like Madoka Magica
Oh, I love
and whatnot.
Madoka.
So I was thinking, what if that, but with an AK-47? So what if, and you know how the constructions are usually, how could this work in the real world?
Hmm.
So that dumb idea took me to Magical Girl Assault because I wanted to make a really light, very fast, non-tape measure using game that
No
could be
tape
very
measures.
casual. No, it
Oh.
uses templates.
Okay.
There has been a game like this, by the way. I totally stole the idea from it. It's called Merc.
Okay.
Mercs is very good, by the way, just in case you want to try that one. But I saw that some games that are really good, like Mercs, don't have a memorable theme. So I decided I like niches, like
Mhm.
small stuff. What if I make a game that if you see the concept, you either love it or think it's the dumbest thing ever and you don't want anything to do with it? And I'm fine with both reactions. That's Magical Girl Assault. The idea here is, okay, something happened in a Russian cyclotron, like particle accelerator, opened a portal to another world, and these beings that metastasize in some women,
Mhm.
like a little companion animal, contract with them and they become magical girls. But here's the thing, they have really cool powers, they're dangerous, so the militaries of the world are recruiting them. What you do in this game is ally yourself with one of the military powers in the world, grab one of the girls who are always accompanied by their CC, their contractual creature,
Okay.
and go to war with tactical objectives. This is not a game of annihilation. It's you need to hack something, you need to rescue someone, you need to deal with troops that are already in the field, and it's mostly based around the characters.
So are the factions though tied to like real world like nations, or did you make up stuff, or how did that work?
So right now there's 3 factions, and I wish to expand to a 4th one that's coming. The
Mhm.
first one is the Pan-Asian Alliance, which is very we don't like one another but might as well magical alliance between Korea, China, and Japan.
Okay.
There's a bloc, the Russian bloc,
Okay.
called the Basilisa Guardia, which is kind of more of a special team more than an actual army. And there's a North American alliance that's Mexico, Canada, and the United States. You
Okay.
choose from one of those factions. There's several characters, like in the image you got over there, the Sigma Squad, the North American guys, sorry, girls in this case, sorry. And you choose a magical girl. They usually come with a CC, the contractual creature. They work as the same unit. If you kill one of them, the other one dies. So it's more of a unit
Interesting.
split into parts. And you grab the same number of sisters. Sisters are like little magical girls who cannot transform, but they
Okay.
can borrow power from the original one. So what you do is manage the power that you generate each turn, see if they're connected to the power, and use that for spells. You can do things like For example, you don't hit somebody else, you can spend to make that bullet curve and hit someone else. What else can you do? Go through walls, move people around. It's a weird game, to be honest.
No, it actually sounds great. It's funny because you mentioned it being kind of a jokey, or you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. But like, I think it's got a lot of legs on it. That's a really cool idea.
And the whole thing is based on like that girl Izanagi, the one you have on screen. She is not only a military magical girl, she's also an idol from an idol group. So her card is very saccharine and weird. Like all her powers are song names, and she's like the weird one of the group. Some are more serious, some are more jokey.
Mhm.
It's fun.
No, it
So
looks
this
great.
is a game that is completely 3D printable.
Yes, and you can actually deluxeify it. There is an actual physical version for the game.
Okay.
It's pink as resin. It's ridiculously pretty. It's from my associate Will from Ignition Core Games, and you can actually go buy it. I also produce all the sculptors for his all the sculpts for his brand. He also has a mech game that's wonderfully good. That one's not available as STLs, but Magical Girl, so you can print and play completely. The
Awesome.
templates are 3D printable. What else? You want terrain? There's terrain packs. There's mission packs. You want like tokens? For
Mhm.
example, there's a character that can create an ice pillar or an ice wall. Well, you can download the ice wall and actually print it. Even I have mine in transparent resin.
You have spell effect?
Yes, I have
Printable?
spell
You
effects
just
for
made
those.
Krista very happy.
So
And they're
happy.
free. Like a lot of this is free. Only the characters cost, and they're not even that costly. And I'm actually very happy with people using them for something else. Like I've seen a lot of people using them for because they didn't like an Infinity miniature and they
Yeah.
wanted something chunkier, or for what's the other game that's like Frostgrave, Stargrave.
Mm-hmm.
For example, those are not available in Resin yet. Those are the NPCs, which is exactly what it sounds. People you need to help move, um, or VIPs that you need to escort. Funny thing, all of the VIPs and the minor characters are anime fan arts.
Hmm.
You may recognize them from somewhere.
I mean, a few of these are a little familiar, maybe, in some interpretations. So, what are the VIPs and such used for in the game?
In the game, you seldom play just to annihilate the other player because you actually play for points, not for kills. So it is completely possible to wipe out the other team and still lose. So
Oh.
what you do is actually to accomplish strategic objectives. One of the available objectives that you can input into the game is escort a VIP. Some VIPs fight back, some you need to gain control, and now you need to defend them. Like they wouldn't do anything unless somebody gains control of them. You can take control away from the other player. You can have civilians in the field. You can even have allies in the field, or the worst, anti-magical operatives, which are more like mercenaries that are neutral and basically limit your ability to use magic. So lots of options.
Oh, it sounds really neat. I think it sounds like a much more complicated game than you were giving it credit for earlier. Like that
Believe it or
sounds-
not, it's actually a casual game. Like
Okay.
I designed this to be very casual, very beer and pretzels like. Since it uses templates, it's easier to do all of this because you have a card with all of the available movements and distance, and another card with all of the distances for the weapons. You just turn it the right way around. So it sounds complicated, but it's actually quite easy to play. I mostly demoed the game, explanations and everything in 40 minutes, and we got a small game there.
I
And
think I should have
honestly-
said robust, not complicated. But
Oh,
anyway,
gotcha.
go on. Yeah.
And templates really do speed up things, even in games that don't like rely on templates. Measurement sticks. Have you heard of like the concept of measurement sticks?
Oh yeah, I used to have a bunch of acrylic trash when I played War Machine.
Yeah. So measurement sticks are for those of you who don't know what they are. I have a set here that's MDF
Oh,
cut
that's pretty cool.
from War Chest Creations. So like instead of like grabbing your tape measure or your ruler and trying to measure out the range, these are sticks that are just the common ranges available, like 6-inch move, which is like one of the most common moves in any game going. So you just use the stick, and am I in range? Yes. Or can I move there? Yes. You're done. There's no counting. It makes the game fly at how quick it is. So this is why I do believe that like the tokens and the templates are a great way to speed up games like that when they're available. And it seems like it's such a it kind of seems like a joke at first. You're like, why would I need special sticks when I have a tape measure? But like, just the amount of certainty it gives you immediately. It's like, does the stick touch the mini? It's in range.
Yeah,
that's all. You need to
the
know.
measure can be super unwieldy as well.
Yeah. So yeah, super glad. More games need to use templates. So I'm definitely glad you made a game that used templates.
Thank you.
Awesome. So if somebody wanted to buy Magical Girl Assault and get started playing, where's the best place where they can do that?
So it depends on what you want. You want just the miniatures done, finished, and in a big, beautiful box? Go to ignitioncoregames.com, where you can get the starter set. The starter set is really cool. It comes with some extras, like I think we still have stickers and stuff like that, and it comes in a very neat box. Or alternatively, are you more of the printer-like person? You have a resin printer you want to fire up? Then you can buy the STLs. The STLs are available in the MyMiniFactory page. Same one where you can find the Grimdark Cuteness stuff. MyMiniFactory is really weird because if you have a tribe, it kind of assumes that that's all you do in MyMiniFactory. So,
right.
So you have to open the tribe thing, the link that I sent you, and then go to other objects and, he's got more things there, which I do. I have a lot of stuff over there.
If I could beg, sorry, go ahead.
And you've also provided a nice discount code for our listeners.
Indeed. You have been officially discounted.
Yes. So if you all use the code PrintYourGamesPod, and I'll have this in the descriptions and everything else for you to copy paste, gang, at MyMiniFactory at checkout, you'll get 50% off all of Heriberto's models, not just the Grimdark the Grimdark Cuteness, Magical Girl Assault. If any of this sounds like something you want, Heriberto's been kind enough to give us a 50% off coupon code for you to use. So go do that and get some really very cute chibis.
Yeah, and that was for everything, like including Magical Girl Assault, Grimdark Cuteness Soul stuff, whatever else I have in my page. I have some small projects like Battle Village, which was what if NPCs, but I have an attacking version and a normal version, and they're chibis.
Oh, okay.
So everything.
I had wondered what that was. I hadn't quite grokked what that was when I looked at them, and that makes sense now. So I also, like, your prices are already like very reasonable. Like a whole Magical Girl squad was only like $10 for the whole squad, and it's like 5 unique sculpts. That's a really good deal, even without the discount code.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna be doing a lot of the legwork, so I figured might as well place them a little bit more on the cheaper side so that you'll stay and play it.
And Alex making fun of me in chat. Show that other game, Param. We know you want to.
Which one?
I think because I slipped and said Grimdark Future earlier.
I see.
Sorry. I will happily show that game on the episode where I'm not interviewing one of the competitors.
Right.
That's right. I do not know anybody who does not love one-page rules.
Right. And you know what? In one-page rules, you could use these chibi miniatures. There are several forces that have rules that would happily use most of these miniatures that Heriberto has sculpted.
And I will be happy for you to use them.
Yes. Get some pictures. We want to see pictures of a chibi army. Please. I know that you've got tons on your Discord, don't you?
Indeed. I have several channels in Discord just for pictures, mostly because every time somebody sends me one, I want to try to save it somewhere and show it to everyone. So there's several that are just pictures or just art for the games where I'm producing, etc.
Awesome. All right. Now, there was one more as if all this wasn't enough. You said you're also doing a comic book series.
Yes, Scarf Heroes.
Tell me about Scarf Heroes.
So Scarf Heroes is. I've always wanted to do a comic. Like I used to do ugly uh, Xerox paper comics when I was in high school and whatnot. A little while ago, I decided to finally take it seriously and learn to do it and draw it. Well, so I decided to that I need a little bit of help. I've always been better with 3D than anything. So I started doing some of the characters in 3D because I did learn that I'm not that bad at drawing. What I'm bad at is at drawing the same thing more than once. So having a 3D model helped me not screw up while I got acquainted with the characters.
That's really
Now,
smart.
yeah, that's not new. That's used in animation and it's called a maquette. But
Hmm.
but since I do 3D prints, I said, so what if this could be part of the role? I'm a big fan of stuff like He-Man, all cartoons. You know those cartoons that used to shill out toys like
Oh
crazy.
yeah,
Like,
all the like Mattel adjacent Hasbro stuff and all that stuff. Yeah.
so I thought, what if I could do that?
If you look at many of like the toys that made us or Toy Galaxy stuff where they interview the creators,
Oh yeah,
they're
love that channel.
explicit. It's like we made lines and made the cartoon to promote the toy line.
Yeah, and I love it. Like we all decided as a society that was kind of crummy, but I kind of love it. Like you could have everything you see in the show, and the design of the toys fits what they're actually getting into the show. So what started as reference ended up as being 3D printable. So the vehicles that appear in the comic are 3D printable.
Mhm.
So you can. I'm very happy to see that some people have printed some of the ground vehicles for Gaslands. Um, there's a lot of airships, so that's there as well. The characters have 3D printable models. I think I need to update that page, but you can find them in the MyMiniFactory page. And well, lest we forget, it's also a comic. So
So
that's also fun.
how many issues has the comic gone? Like how long has this been going?
So far, it has a prologue, which is just the pages you have over there.
Mhm.
Complete first issue and complete, but I have not uploaded the final 7 pages, second issue. And these ones are long. They're more like 40, 50 pages.
Yeah, I'm noticing that
Um,
this isn't like a web comic where you just get a couple
Yeah,
of
yeah. It's
panels every week or so.
well, even
It's
like monthly
big
comics
involved.
are usually like 22 pages
And
sometimes now.
this
So
art
yeah.
is epic. Like you really do a great job with your 2D art as well, my dude.
Thank you. I also have a friend who's an inker who's helping me with this one. So he takes my horrible scribbles and actually puts the final pass of decency and corrects some
Mhm.
of my mistakes or tells me, hey, wouldn't you want to change something here? So it's a multimedia project and it's fun. It's about this. It's about superpower scarves, basically. So there's
But
this girl that lives with some cats. She has a superpower scarf, and now she must travel to find her father.
and you said that also has the ships as printable files?
Yes. So there's airships because, of course,
Yes, I
everybody
love
loves an
airship.
airship.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
several of the characters either have a personal one or there's big ones and they're printables. So you might want to print one and paint it or use it for a game. I think airships don't get that much love in RPG games unless you can explore the interior
Mhm.
or place figurines on top, but they're still interesting.
Mhm. This is very cool. Very, very cool. So you've been in this 3D printing game for a while, and you've been in the board game bit for an equal while. What do you view is the major differences there? Like, what is it like when you're designing stuff for like that's going to be in a major board game like Scythe, compared to the development cycle that gets something new on your Patreon each month?
Oh, well, for starters, there's the fact that if I decide it's done, it's done. So I can upload it.
Mhm.
Actually, most of the Capsule Chibi figurines, they're actually kind of fast for me to do. Well, first off, there's more than 700 of them. So
Oh my good
let's just say I got in
grief,
practice.
my dude!
No, no, and I think that's more now, but I got practice with those, so I'm fast with them. If you tune into any of my Sunday streams, you'll see that I finish a character like between the beginning and the end of the stream. But then again, they're kind of chunky. They're kind of easy to do unless you're doing a big monster. So that's also what I like about the Chibi miniatures. I can do a lot in my life just because of the proportions.
Right.
Um, so basically, I decide when it's done, it's done. When it's for something else like professional work, well, first, it needs to exist in the real world with traditional manufacturing, which is the biggest part of it. Like, we can do things. I mean, this is kind of obvious when you see some 3D printable stuff, or you can expect it. But unless you've done both, like things you need to sculpt and do for plastic production, it's going to go to a factory. They're going to create metal dies. They're going to eject plastic into it. Somebody's going to have to take these parts, and some Chinese worker is going to have to check everything, paste things, and box it. Versus, hey, the print is done. I'm going to wash it in alcohol. Well, you can do things that are impossible to do with plastic. And impossible not just in complexity, level of detail, how fast you can get them to production. So not everything that prints is good for manufacturing, actually. So there's a little bit of experience that you need to get. Now that experience is not super special. I'm not trying to pull myself up. It's just something different. Everything needs to be chunky. You need to check angles. There's something called a draft angle that allows the mold to open and release that part. You need to also think of operations. What's an operation? It's if a miniature has like 5 parts, any miniature that's more like 3 parts, it's ridiculously expensive. Like we're talking about exponential numbers here, because any operation is not just the part. It's when somebody takes it, operation, puts it there, operation, cools it, operation. All of that amounts to greater cost. So you need to work with that. But that's the difference. It's not just creative, it's also kind of technical. Not
Sure.
horribly so, it's just experience. It's not terribly difficult. But yes.
So, like, this explains, like, well, some companies, if I order a miniature from them, I get a piece of resin that's in the 5 different pieces, and, like, the big chunk of resin plastic is still at the end of it. It's because that's one way to get it to me and reduce costs, because they didn't have to pay somebody to clip off the edges and then glue the model together. Whereas
Exactly. Man
opposed,
work is always, yeah, man work is always costly.
right. Whereas opposed to like Fantasy Flight games, the models are already glued together from their multi parts and on bases, and they charge me a lot more money for those models.
Yeah, and um, producing a resin miniature that looks pretty epic, it's super cheap. Like, to be
Hmm.
honest, it's more time to create the original file. Like, you
Hmm.
invest the time in the original file, then I don't know if you're doing the pre-supports, you gotta test it, so you need to print it. But it's still such a fast turnover that's ridiculous. Um, with actual traditional miniatures, and we have many ways of doing them. There's spin casts, there's the metal ones. Um, but if you're planning board games, then you're not doing resin miniatures unless it's a deluxe version or something like that. You're doing a metal die, and those are like $7,000 for a
Right.
miniature or something like that.
Yeah. Even the companies that have the machines that can make the metal dies, they're like it takes 3 days per die to make it. So it's like a
Yeah, it's
huge
it's kind of
investment.
beautiful actually, the whole process
Hmm.
of the CNC thing, cutting it. Like, you don't even 3D print the original, make a mold. You don't need that. It's a
Hmm.
CNC thing doing cuts little by little by little.
Hmm.
And there's awesome stuff nowadays like Siocast.
Hmm.
Spoiler: a lot of the new things for maybe Magical Girl Salt and the other game we're creating, Ignition Core, are coming in Siocast.
Oh, nice. Have you had much experience playing with that toy?
Yes, with the miniatures, not the machine. But then again, we don't have the machine. There's a caster that does the miniatures and just send them.
Mm, okay.
That said, it is wonderful, by the way. It cuts costs. It's not fiddly like resin. It has its
Hmm.
drawbacks, but they're very little drawbacks.
Hmm.
It's very
Yeah.
reasonable.
We're hearing a lot of like we talked with Titan Forge a little bit ago, and they were doing COcast, and they were for their pre-printed stuff, or not printed, I guess, just physical releases, and they seem to like it a lot. What do you think about some of the manufacturing that's coming down the pipe, where like Privateer Press is doing, where they're making their own print farms and just going 3D printing to customer as their actual release format?
I I love that, to be honest. So here's the thing.
Hmm.
Premature Press and I have a history, not because of the company. It's because I used to You have no idea how much I love War Machine. Like, I really, really love War Machine, and I still love that company, and I want them to succeed. When they changed a little bit with the more digital, no cards, like the game died for me a bit. I sold my army, but I still
Right.
like kept up. I kept up with it. It's very interesting that they changed to the 3D. My dog is being rambunctious, so apologies if you see some tails or something over here. Um,
Dogs are good for ratings.
Excellent. Everybody who loves the border collie, subscribe. So,
Nice.
um, Premature Press being kind of a big player in the wargaming business, it's kind of a big deal that they got into 3D printing for me because it sets a big precedent. Now, a lot of people had a little bit of a backlash at the beginning, but to be honest, it was their first time and they were just getting into this.
Right.
I see much less complaints or problems now that they have the actual release, not the pre-release they did at Gen Con. I like it, to be honest. As a player and a painter, I must be honest with you, I prefer to clean mold lines than to clean knobs from 3D printed supports. But it's also not that bad, to be honest. And you can just ignore them, and from afar, it's going to look great because they're going to place it on where they're less noticeable. I see that they placed a lot of them in bolts, outward parts that you could just clip or sand, so that works perfect. I hope more companies do that. Here's why.
Western Digital just
Because
announced they're doing. War Games
go.
Atlantic said they're doing it.
Oh yeah, don't Wargames Atlantic do like a combo? Like you can either buy this or print them.
Yeah, they're also doing that, and for some sets they are doing digital printed only. So for their like what it seems like it's filling the space of what would have been a resin cast is instead being resin printed in a lot of places.
So the less, sorry, the cheaper way to make miniatures is spin casting. Spin casting still has kind of a cost for doing the mold, the tooling, which is not that much to be honest, but it's still a cost, and you still have inventory. With, I think they did talk about this, like not needing to have inventory and overhead, and being able to control all of it ourselves
Right.
is one of the bigger draws. In this way, also, let's just say you put out a product that just doesn't sell. It's not that much of a problem. Like, just as long as you cover the original and a little bit more, I guess, you're good. You don't have the investment of plastic mold or resin or something you need to deep discount later. I think it's going to be really good for small companies, actually.
And there's also the shipping issue. Like wargamers in Australia and New Zealand constantly bemoan the cost of wargaming because they have to import these extreme, like the import fees and the shipping fees are very expensive. But you can just hire or set up a print house inside Australia to send the digital files to them, and they can be locally manufactured, and a lot of the cost of say getting something from from Mexico or UK or US shipped across a sea becomes nothing more than an email.
Yes, like setting up a local print farm. That's got to be way cheaper than sending, I don't know, containers of miniatures,
Right.
like
Were
at a constant pace.
Were you watching last week's episode where we were talking about the printer that automatically ejects the model so it can just keep printing all night?
I did not because of the outage, and I didn't have the chance to check it afterwards. I must do that because I always watch it later if I can catch it. But I've seen some of those. We're not talking about the belt printer, right? We're talking about the
No. It's a
form
resin printer
automation thing.
that just like
Yeah.
extends the print bed, flexes it, dumps it into a
Dumps
basket,
it.
goes back and prints another bed.
And does it also go hi ho?
Huh?
Well, we're at it, like hi ho.
I hope.
No, yeah, I saw that if it's a form automation system, yeah, that thing is nuts. That's amazing. And I actually expected a company, whoever, to come up with something like that because that's, let's be honest, that's the next step.
Right.
Right.
Because like the criticism of 3D printing has always been, well, you can't do it at scale. And then
Unless you
well,
can do it
what
at
if
scale.
you can? What if you can? Because
No, 3D printing makes sense where it makes sense.
Right.
And it's constantly evolving. So, yeah.
All we need now is to get like the lasers into metal dust printers in affordable home use, so that we can print full size Space Marines.
So you can sinter everything now.
I'm not going to hold my breath there.
So like you've seen these, like the like a bin full of metal dust, and they shoot freaking lasers into it to meld
Oh
the
yeah,
dust at the right points, and then like BMW was showing this off last year, where they just like reached into the metal dust and pulled out a fully functional polished wheel that they could put on one of their cars.
yeah. The automotive industry has. Oh my god, they have the best printers. I don't know if you've seen this.
I used to think dentists did, but no, it's the automotive and the aeronautic industry. They have a
That's it.
3D printer. Listen to this: Boeing has a 3D printer that will 3D print a plane. Like it uses basically a welding torch to just print pure metal into as it's extrude, and permanently plasma fuses it together, and is able to like they freaking 3D printed a rocket they sent in space in this thing.
So what you're saying is that we're living in the year we will have the first 3D printable gigantic benchy made of metal.
Yes.
Nice.
I want a benchy I can sell in. Dang it. Awesome.
You know someone's
So-
going to do that for an art project soon. It's got to happen.
Oh god, I hope somebody does.
So, is there anything else you want to shout out to, Heriberto?
Oh well, projects I want to shout out.
Yes,
Mhm.
because you're doing a lot. I know we've missed something.
I guess
Or
Ignition.
any friends.
Oh, friends! I've been blessed with a lot of compatriots here. Well, other projects, Ignition Core, definitely. It's the other game I do with my friend and associate Will. It's a mech fighting, not fighting, tactical combat game. It's wonderful. It's anime inspired, as a lot of the stuff we do. This one is not an STL, but boy, do the resin makes it worth it. It's really pretty. They're chunky, and it's actually very well designed. Like props to Will, he does really great rules.
These models look awesome. Like I like this this little deploy. I don't know what to call that.
Yeah, it's a
The
dropship.
Yeah, that's like very chunky and anime, and
Little
this
Clone
one is
Wars
like
vibe
the
too
freaking
to it.
cat mech with the laser whip. That's awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah, the game is really good. If you ever have the chance to, I don't know, try it, order it, definitely do so. I really recommend it.
Mhm. Awesome.
Also, I would like, speaking of shout outs, let me send you a link. This is my dear girlfriend who also associates with me for Capsule Chibi. She manages everything social and creates wonderful designs. She creates good illustrations and can also paint your pet. She creates some mean and beautifully looking pet portraits.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So yeah,
And this is Russian blue art.
Russian blue art herself.
It definitely looks awesome.
We're also
love the-
working. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I love her style that she's got going. Like this this like very almost block print, very line heavy style to her art. Very colorful. It matches your aesthetic a lot. I can see why you all get work together very well.
Yeah, the only thing more wonderful that her imagination is herself. So definitely give her a visit. Also, I'd like shout out speaking. There's shiny heroes. We're creating, and over here the chat is right. We're creating another game. Have you guys ever played some old time RPG strategy games like Shining Force?
Yes.
Okay,
Final
we're
Fantasy
creating a
Tactics,
game.
Tactics Ogre.
Yes,
Yes.
we're creating a game kind of like that, but tabletop.
Yes. Where can I play?
Well, the miniatures are going to be available soon.
Mhm.
And then again, it's also Ignition Core Games, the distributor Magical Girl Soul, the guy I work with. So that's going to continue being developed during this year.
So is this going to be a printed game or a manufactured game?
Manufactured game, small manufacturing, but manufacturing game.
Okay.
This one actually has tiles and everything to play, so that's also very cool.
That's awesome. Like some of my favorite game. Like right now, I'm geeking out about playing through another run through of Fire Emblem and Triangle Strategy. So like I'm super
that
into
one's good.
this. What's your favorite? What's your favorite of the Japanese strategy games?
Oh God, I used to. This is gonna sound very weird, but I'm one of the biggest fans of a game that I know strategy-wise not the best, Valkyria Chronicles.
Ah, I like Valkyria Chronicles a lot. So, and also Wyndham from the last episode was a big Valkyria Chronicles fan. Also,
I have this pipe dream of maybe one day making a game of that myself if the license ever becomes available. But yeah,
awesome. All right. So, gosh, there's lots of places to find. The link section for this episode, the show notes links are gonna be long and epic. So check your stuff out. Chibi Capsule on Patreon. You are Heriberto Val. I'm very sorry. Heriberto Valle Martínez, or at Marchin Atelier on MyMiniFactory.
hmm
And it is Ignition Games,
Mission Core Games.
ignitioncoregames.com
That's the one.
for the manufactured games. And Scarf Heroes is available at scarfheroescomics.com. Also,
At least that one's
remember
easy.
that there is, thankfully, you have graciously provided our listeners with a 50% off discount code for all of your MyMiniFactory items, which makes sure your product is already very affordably priced, and they are still at that price. So I highly recommend everybody go and take advantage of that. That code is Print Your Games Pod, one word, all lowercase. Again, we'll have this code available in the show notes for everybody after the fact, but definitely go use that code and buy some of these awesome models.
Super thank you.
Until next time, if you want to support the show or find out more, you can find that at printyourgames.com. And the best thing you can do to support the show is give us a review on Spotify or iTunes. It really helps boost our engagement. If you're watching us on YouTube or the live stream, what you can do there to help the show is give us a like, give us a subscribe, and type some comments down. That helps tell YouTube, hey, people actually are interested in this show. And it helps get this to more people, which makes our day very happy. If you want to follow more of us, we have a Facebook and a Twitter account available. Both of those are Print Your Games. And of course, at youtube.com/Param for all of our YouTube goodness. Until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param.
I'm Kristen Sowards, also known as Seventh Mastery. And if you're bored on Saturday the 21st, I'll be doing a paint and take down at Legendarium Games here in Utah. So. And also don't forget to use your screen protector.
And thank you so much for joining us again, Heriberto. This was awesome.
Thanks to you for inviting me. It was great.